Good morning, Mr. Heil. How are you?
Great, George. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay, good. The technology worked. Um, I set it up so that you guys could have this in case I got stuck doing something else. And here we are, and it's being recorded. So be careful.
I was amused at first. I said, I'm attending my own Zoom meeting.
Hang on, I'm going to move us over here. And Larry Prince is joining us. Awesome. How's life in your world, Jack?
It's good. Hey, did you see that email I had about the business scan?
I'll have to go back and look.
Well, I just asked if there was a way to see what the 6 questions were. I sent the business scan out.
Sure.
I thought, maybe I should know those questions.
Sure. What we've done is we've taken the most heavily weighted questions out of Discover and then combine those with asking for a range of revenues and a range of employee count so that we can more accurately place the business in its right, value demographic.
Right.
And then we kind of, all right, if your revenues are 1 million to 3 million, we're going to guess where you are statistically, right? Because we know what percentage of companies have $1 million versus the number of companies that have 3. So we do some extrapolating, and this is behind the curtain anyway, and it comes up with an accurate range of values. I mean, it's basically a Discover Lite, which is not the best. I just wanted to we needed to differentiate it from Discover because it really is designed to be used way up at the top of your marketing funnel.
I had a prospect and I thought, well, let me shoot this at him and see how responsive he is. And I got it back within 5 minutes.
Wow. That's
so
great.
That was, I was encouraged by that. But I think he made up all the numbers because really he didn't have a business. He was, I guess, hoping he would someday, but it was in crypto and it didn't make sense and it wasn't generating near the revenues. So, but anyway, he responded.
That's great, right?
Right.
And if you have a senior executive or business owner goes in and says, well, what would it look like at this revenue range? Again, it's not a valuation, but it is an accurate calculation of value from a financial perspective. It's a range. So, and the intent, of course, is if they get them intrigued, because ultimately what they need to do is call someone like you, call someone who's a specialist in understanding value and communicating the contributors to value, and then engaging in a conversation, we hope, about how to take control of really 2 things. It's the operational best practices and making the business easier to run, which has the delightful result of increasing the value of the business. So, man. Right. How you doing, Larry? You've been relegated to the basement this morning, huh?
Yeah. Erica's home from Germany.
Cool.
And Jack, our daughter, lives in Germany, but she comes home on occasion and is allowed to work from home. She gets my office. My my son works from home 3-4 days a week. So we got a full crew here, and this is what I get.
You see how it is? That's so funny.
We got a little makeshift office down here, and but yeah, all good, very good. We went to the beach for the weekend, the 4 of us, and without their significant others, but it was just the 4 of us. We had a great time.
That's nice. It's so great. I love my kids' partners, but it is also so good to just get them. So good.
Yeah,
good for you. I'm happy.
They liked it, but all good. So
excellent.
Yep. I actually have a technical question when appropriate.
Please.
Okay.
Fire away. This is an open mic, right?
I know I knew the answer to this, and I think I do, but I've been questioning a little bit. So the valuation at a core value, we put in industry, revenue, EBITDA. Are there particular industries weighted more on revenue as a part of the algorithm than? Okay, that's what I thought.
And can I, let's just, I want to make sure I answer that because this will end up getting posted. I want to make sure I answer that. So you're putting in gross revenue and net income or EBITDA. And I know those aren't the same, but for purposes of this analysis.
A lot of times a lot of people don't know their EBITDA, so they put in net income of some sort.
That's totally cool.
Yeah.
And you're putting an employee count, you're putting in a zip code. So what is happening behind the scenes, what the algorithms are crunching on is your industry. Your industry tells us whether the valuation is done, whether a financial valuation would be done on gross revenues or the EBITDA. It also tells us the range of multiples that would apply. We look at your revenue and employee count. So revenue to employee count, if that's skewed, causes that those should be in line. And if not, it impacts one of the value, the report on the value for the strength of a value driver. And then we look at the zip code, which is an MSA. It's a metropolitan statistical area under the census, so that a business. So one thing with revenues is, valuations are different by revenue stripes, as we know. They're also different based on MSAs. So a business in Tulsa should be valued the same as a business in, just forgive me, but the same as a business in Akron. Okay. Different from, we're not going to compare Chicago to Hanover, New Hampshire. So that MSA is taken into account as well. So it's a very sophisticated way of looking at the business and calculating value. And that's all, if you go and read the patent, as I've joked, I actually literally had one gentleman at one of the big enterprises that's using CoreValue actually read the patent and hit me with questions. I finally was like, listen, you're going to have to talk to our attorneys, and this is going to start costing you money. Read the patent, have your attorneys look at the patent, and it's all out there. So anyway, if you feel like reading 150 pages of legalese. But so anyway, Larry, just to give a comprehensive answer to a relatively simple question.
I would say most people would never ask it, and most people don't even think in terms. They accept it. That's not where I'm going. I'm actually going from a marketing standpoint, because CoreValue competes versus tools that are inferior in its validation and its depth of how it in its sophistication by which it uses those parameters.
Yes.
And I think that that's a part of the secret sauce of what makes this different than ValueBuilder and so many others that are just really tools that put you in a box, right? They categorize you based on how, like John's growth planning index we developed,
Sure.
Right? That is not a validated tool. It's a good tool that does its best intuitively to know if you answer it this way, this is where you belong. If you answer it that way, this is very different than the algorithmic intelligence behind CoreValue.
I'd love to hear you say that, and if I could amplify on it. So let's look at these in turn. Let's look at ValueBuilder, right? Good tool. A lot of people use it out in the market. We have it on good information that about, this is hearsay, but I have it on good information that more than half of their data is $1 million and under businesses. And it's very well suited for having a relatively simple conversation with a Main Street business. It is not designed, nor is it appropriate for larger businesses, businesses solidly in the middle market. Now, one comment I would make about that, well, I'd make a couple of comments. First of all, 8 questions gives you a, here you are, please contact your advisor, and that's effective. That's what Business Scan does, but Business Scan does it in a more sophisticated way. Let's silence this phone. And then ValueBuilder has a deeper a more extensive, it's 22 questions that generates a 34-page report. And you should ask yourself, if 22 questions can generate a 34-page report, what's in the report? More than a page per question. And it doesn't really calculate a value. It talks about ranges of values and where the business might fall. And that's great. If we look at some tools like Quist, which is a valuation tool, sort of competes with BizEquity. Those shouldn't be put in the same category as CoreValue. The new Capitalize, met with Craig. He showed me the tool. Valuation, very good, good tool for valuation. And one of the likes, don't likes, he actually has analysts putting eyeballs on it. It's a software input and a software delivery with human eyeballs. One could argue that is a more rigorous than, say, a BizEquity, which is a good tool in the right hands for creating a valuation. What Quist, Capitalize, and BizEquity have in common is that they give you a number, and that's it. It's not actionable. They don't say, and here's what you need to do. I know this is disappointing, Madam CEO, but this is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's where CoreValue is having a different conversation. We're coming up with the same number, but coming at it from an operational strength. So we're saying, okay, just give me your income and your revenue, your EBITDA. And now let's do a pre-due diligence analysis of your business. We're not doing a discounted cash flow. We're going to do a pre-due diligence analysis of your business. We're going to compare that to closed transactions and say businesses that had these strengths and weaknesses in this type of market, in this revenue stripe, et cetera, had this value. Incredibly accurate. In fact, I'm having 2 calls today with one's an enterprise customer, one's a hopefully about to become an enterprise customer, and they love this aspect of it, the fact that value is actionable. So Larry, simple question, but your point's a good one. It's comparing a race car with a 4x4, and the 4x4 I have owned a ton of them, right? They're great vehicles. If you want to go out and get serious about in a different direction, I don't know how to take this analogy, but or maybe the better analogy is it's like having an X-ray versus having a CAT scan. My son's wrist was broken. The X-ray showed nothing. A CAT scan revealed that he actually had a fracture that was emergent. That was an emergency, and they had to go right in. So you want to have an X-ray and have a conversation. Yeah, you could be fine. You could be messed up. Great. You want to have a CAT scan about the operational performance of your business and the relationship between operational performance and value. Then CoreValue is the only tool on the market that's out there. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. I'm back. Good morning, Scott Barth. How are you, sir? You came in the middle of a.
Yeah, I like the enthusiasm. Now, George, it's the first time that I got the passcode. So I was on a journey and a search to find that code, and then I saw it on the growth drive. So
got it.
Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah.
Oh, no worries, man. It's great to see you. Larry was made a point about, well, Larry, Larry, what's your key takeaway from George's enthusiastic rant?
That George is enthusiastic. The rest I don't remember.
I know.
Scott, I had asked a little bit about understanding a peek behind the scene when we put in, or the client puts in revenue and puts in EBITDA or a net income number.
Yep.
They put in industry, number of employees, zip code. Is this more than just a multiple of EBITDA, which is a common way of looking at enterprise value? And the answer is CoreValue, unlike other tools, is much more sophisticated, looking at all those parameters, sometimes looking at revenue more than EBITDA, depending on the industry, and also looking at revenue per employee as a part of the consideration. So behind the scenes in that patent, as George was saying, is a very sophisticated way validating the output of a value. And then, of course, the gap comes with the operational score, then driving that gap to potential value. So, and I bring this up because I do get the emails, George, a lot from the ValueBuilder people.
Mm-hmm.
I took a sneak peek, 3-4 years ago, and I'm on their mailing list. And my homework on Value Builder, because that's what, even though there are other tools for valuation, what you're competing with from a consulting world is Value Builder quite often.
Yep.
And it's just there's no comparison between the two. The Value Builder is very colorful with its 8 questions and its 12 approaches, and but it is not the sophistication that CoreValue brings.
I love to hear you say that, Larry. Thank you. And when we look at, so guys, this is not an infomercial out there in the YouTube sphere. This is not an infomercial this is a spontaneous conversation, and one in which I will share my perspective. Value Builder has a good 12-step process for helping a client understand the things that are going to make their business valuable and sellable. It's 12 steps, 1 step a month. It's a 1-year engagement. I assume that those can typically be shorter or longer, right? And John Warlow has a great following. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, which is kind of weird because we travel in the same circles, but he has adherence, and we never hear from his happy customers, right? I only hear from people who are either looking at Value Builder and looking at CoreValue, and we try like hell to win them as customers if it makes sense for their practice, or people who are disgruntled with Value Builder for one reason or another. Typically, it doesn't come down to their technology or to the 12-step methodology. It comes down to their marketing program, which is ironically the #1 reason people give me when they choose Value Builder over CoreValue. CoreValue Advisor Software is not a marketing agency, although we do make some marketing stuff available. When it comes, you guys, all 3 of you are certified growth specialists in the growth drive world. And CoreValue, when we analyze a business, casts everything in terms of contribution to or cost to value, right? It's the value gap. How much are you contributing to the value gap, which is the delta between what a business would be worth at the top end of the range of multiples versus what the business would be worth after completing due diligence, hence closed transactions, right? What is your business actually worth? Not pie in the sky, not rough numbers. What is it actually worth to a willing buyer, financial buyer, not a strategic buyer? Okay, great. Well, business owners, they don't care. In fact, I'll take it 1 step further. They generally don't give a crap, about the value of their business. What do they care about? They care about, they care deeply at a certain point in their career, towards the end, when they're looking at the exit. But throughout most of their career, what do they want? They want their business to throw off more cash, increase cash flow profitably, right? And they want to make the business easier to run. We know that's, what is that, 80 some odd percent of business, 83% of business owners right there. So if you're going to aim your services at the market, you need to be able to satisfy, either you need to niche yourself into the end of life from their perspective, into preparing businesses for sale, great. But if you really want to get people's attention, you need to talk about making a business grow and making it easier to run. And that's what Growth Drive is very sophisticated in delivering. And it was built by listening to you guys, right? I'm just lucky enough to sit at the middle of a spider's web, and I have a decade of listening to thousands and having these conversations thousands and thousands of times. And what does it come down to? Predictable, help me create predictable profits, predictable, profitable cash flow, so I can invest in growth. And when I've done those 2 things, I have a business that's easier to run, predictable cash flow, business that's easier to run, that's going to maximize value at its current EBITDA. And the predictable growth allows us to then harness that to the shareholder value of the business. Okay, I'm off my rant. You guys, these 3 men spent 3 days shut in a small room with this level of energy. I apologize.
Yeah, George, I had a great conversation with Bob Oliver yesterday.
Great.
And he had just signed up, he said, for CoreValue, which is great. So we were talking about the usage and so forth. And Bob, since he has started his practice, has always focused on value. the value drivers as the key. And we were having this great conversation that finally ended up in, that's the greatest paradigm shift or mindset shift that I do with owners is, the proverbial cart and horse. CoreValue defines the cart and horse for me in terms of position. And that is the horse is the value driver and value drivers, and the cart is actually the profits. They follow the value driver.
Mhm.
And most business owners, when I start with them, are always focused on the profit side of it. Even looking at, as an example, I'm maniacal on talking about gross profit margin as being the single most important number that's on the income statement or P&L. And that's an example of being able to shift that thinking, that it's really about how do you gain productivity and efficiency and those kind of things within the cost of goods sold, and then price accordingly. That really gives you evidence that a customer values what it is you provide. That allows you to obviously price where you're going to price. And we just had a great conversation about this yesterday on being able to continue to drive that home with owners, that the predictable aspect comes from the value drivers, because that's the cash flow and profits, and then gives you the opportunity for growth. And so often, without those fundamentals in place, the key, those foundational dimension one items in place, businesses get themselves in a lot of trouble as they try to scale with essentially a weak foundation.
Scott, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's
Jack, by the way, my sympathy for two failed attempts, son. Happy Jack. I'm pulling for the Belmont.
Oh man, I didn't even watch the Preakness. How'd he do in the Preakness?
I think he finished sixth, I think, in an 8-horse, 8-horse race. So, yeah.
not DFL, but hey,
I was
happy.
positive in Charleston, but it didn't stay that way.
Yeah.
Right, but there was still, I mean, the Derby, that long shot, that was just cool. I was worried that the horse actually injured himself on the final stretch, but apparently he didn't. But they didn't put him in the Preakness, right?
Yeah, that the trainers actually made a decision. They would not run that horse any quicker than 5 to 6 weeks between races. So they made the decision right from the beginning, even pre-race, that he's not running into Preakness no matter how he does. And then the Belmont work, just works within that 5-week schedule. So
that's admirable.
Yeah,
that's admirable. They're not going to sacrifice the animal for the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And you also have to look at the odds, right?
80 to 1.
You know what's cool, Scott, about I can't tell you how the impact of hearing you guys, senior professionals who I like and respect, talk in terms of the dimensions. It's cool. It's thank you.
Larry, I want to give you, compliment you and credit you for my mindset shift in terms of feeding 3 to 5 as a priority, as opposed to that spaghetti bowl of 18 drivers that it had always been overwhelming to my clients. Now, obviously bang for the buck and some of the other reports say where to focus on first, and that's been the work. But what had happened to me previously is there was, I wouldn't say reluctance as much as they weren't seeing the value going back into the value drivers, where I would try to get them in that, at least quarterly, we're reviewing where we're at, and then being able to chunk that the way that you had shared that in Charleston is really a breakthrough. So
yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, just a quick note on that, Scott. Thanks. And I'm going to be speaking to Bob this week too, based on that framework I sent out. I sent it out last week, I believe.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've got it. In fact, I have it open. Yeah.
It's something, and please use it any way you want.
I posted it in the community, so
Oh, good.
Yeah, you did in Circle too.
Growth Drive Circle. Yep.
George and I have talked a lot. I love one of my books that have made the biggest difference for me years ago when I was a young leader in corporate was Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And of all 7, the one, there's a few, but one especially, the end in mind.
Uh-huh.
And ever since then, that was a awakening for me to always think in terms of working backwards. And one of the things I like to do, and we just don't think we got to it in Charleston as much, is really look at the execution capability of our client,
Yes.
where they're really ready to execute on. And then also, what do they get? How can we take this language of 18 drivers, 78 subset
Right.
within, and put it in terms that they live every day? And I think that's why you see my chart. They live in a sales and marketing world. They live in an operations world. There's a market they play in with customers and competitors. There's a senior management team. There's the corporation as a whole. Those are the mindset. And there's the financial, right? The money, the capital, the cash. Those are the elements that they think through. So I try to take all the data,
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm strong at, and fit it into a world how they think. And so that they'll take action on. They could take action on operations, sales, finance, senior management team, understanding the market. But everything else becomes sometimes too nebulous or intellectual for them to think through the action on, and it doesn't happen. It's hard enough, even with what I said, to get them to take the action. So that's why I developed that over time.
Hey, guys, I have a hard stop. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Larry, but I have a hard stop and need to say goodbye.
Jack,
Yeah,
listen,
Good
great to
seeing
see
you all.
You have a great day, man.
Thank you. Take care.
Talk to you soon. Yeah, and it's interesting how much of this, there are different approaches. Think about traction. We think about scaling up. We think about Covey. Think about growth drive, right? Which will be published here relatively soon. And there's those, we always come back to the same focuses because those are representative of what our clients want, right? I'm not going to flatter myself to be in the Vern Harnish, Gino Wickman pool, but we are all focusing on cash flow, senior management, on those exact factors that you just described, Larry. And thanks for sharing that. Would you mind if I put it in actually, I'll leave it in circle.
You do whatever you want. The only part that I don't like about what I sent out on that template, it does not, because that was a real client and they were so buttoned down on the financial, they are a financial services SaaS, that it didn't show up in that template. But it should for many clients, the financial, the ability to understand their information each month, operating reports and balance sheets and cash flow, to be able to make better decisions moving forward. And that was not the case there because that's their strength. That's what they are. So that's why in that template, it's not there. But if you ever wanted me to recreate that, adding financials in that, I could always do that.
Hey, listen, I'm not trying to make work for you. I was about to say, I'm not trying to make work for you. If you have a sec, if you could add that comment in circle to the post, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll add that.
You will say it better.
I will do that.
No urgency, but thank you.
it.
And by the way, if you want to create more templates,
No,
the community thanks
no,
you.
circle. I never said what I did. I'll go in circle.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good reminder, George, because I gotta put in those 2 interaction guides from DISC that we had talked about in the meeting. So I'll put that in there, and then maybe I can talk with you about even doing maybe a 30-minute webinar just on an overview on how to do that quick that quick identification of individual styles, because you can do that in about 30 seconds.
That would be outstanding.
Yeah,
style.
and something as simple as that. How do you identify a style? And then the interaction guides are great because it tells you how to connect with them and then also deal with conflict and those kind of things, as well as what to focus on in the sales side. So
I thought that the new DISC, and I know DISC changes over time, and I know that the way my understanding is that the way we analyze, and one of the gentlemen who just joined the business advisor, the first business advisor peer group, the founding group, his DISC assessment from 16, I think from 2016 or 2018 is markedly different than that he just completed. And he's simply he's at a different place.
Yeah,
all those people. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, a couple of things, George, on what changed, because that's Wiley that bought Inscape is the name of the company that was out of Minnesota. But they implemented around that time frame that he was talking about computer adaptive testing, CAT. And that's the artificial intelligence they actually utilize for IQ testing.
Okay.
So they apply it as you take it, and what it does is it kind of finds your ceiling and your floor, and then will give you a more accurate report utilizing that. So two things probably at play. One is that it's a more accurate view of who he is now. And then the second thing is major life changes can actually shift your style over time. And the one that is most interesting that tends to shift out is when you're a high I, an influencer, you know, that outgoing personality, that tends to lessen over time. And the study that has been done on it is people actually get tired. They get worn out in being that way, and they kind of mellow. And it's an interesting shift.
I can see that, you know, as a high I, I can see that because after a while, you're happy just to listen. Also,
Yeah.
you know, getting trained as a moderator has been such a paradigm shift for me. What a fantastic training. It was done by Tina Corner Stoltz at LX Council. And it really changes it will diminish that I because you learn to be even better at, you know, using two of these and one of these.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is interesting.
And
I would love
George,
to do that webinar.
You and I were talking, I'm a DI, and I think you are as well, if I'm not mistaken, or an ID maybe.
I'm DI.
And boy, the need to suppress that in facilitating, moderating versus coaching and leading, right?
Well,
I've been applying it to every aspect of my life.
I have the same struggle as a DI.
Yeah, Larry.
Yeah.
It's a curse.
Well, it's wanting to be helpful, right? Because I mean, that's what the three of us do, or that's what most of the people in this community do. We want to help, and we're enthusiastic about helping. And it's easy to jump in, and as Tina correctly points out in her training, you know, if you just jump in, you might be answering the wrong question, right? Isn't that what CoreValue does? Bringing it full circle, you know, you go in. And you may, the CEO can sit there and be screaming about margin or about cash flow or about marketing, whatever the fire is in the lobby, the landmine that's busy going off. And it turns out that, you know, when we ask questions, we might come up with a better definition of the real problem. So, yeah, man.
Hey guys, George, just a final thought. And Larry, this kind of piggybacking on when you were talking earlier about ValueBuilder. So, you know, I had mentioned that I was with them for about a year, and I didn't find the tool sophisticated enough. And when I found CoreValue, I said, okay, this adds a different level of value and understanding for our clients. They have a great business development department there, and Kimberly, if you know her, she's wonderful. She's been recruiting me now for about 3 years, constantly coming back. But it was interesting. I finally asked Kimberly what she saw the difference between the two in CoreValue and ValueBuilder. And she was real clear from her perspective and how John Warlow thinks about it. John believes that his is business owner focused, and that's why the heavy emphasis on the marketing side, so that the advisors then can get connected. When an owner, kind of a push-pull, it's more of a pull strategy.
Sure.
From a marketing standpoint, as opposed to sales driven. And she said, there's no question that CoreValue in her mind is much more advisor focused. It's about building your skills to be able to really help the owner at a level that you want to do. And I think CoreValue has a bit higher of an application, if you will, for larger companies than what ValueBuilder. It's almost like because I do both scaling up and EOS with, you know, depending on what a client interest is. And clients that are below about $7 to $8 million tend to really thrive on EOS. And then they'll look at the tools, even self-implementing, but they have some great software as well. They'll look at those tools, and then they start to look at, as they grow, they start to see a more sophisticated focus in the scaling up side, especially on the finance side. There's a heavy emphasis from Vern on that.
Yeah.
So I think there's kind of a parallel between scaling up and EOS, and then CoreValue and ValueBuilder.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Just a perspective, and
No, I like that. I like that, and it's love. I don't often get a perspective into it. I'm an open book, and heck, I just did.
Oh yeah.
I just did a demo with someone who, going into the meeting, I didn't know wasn't going to become a formidable competitor, and they won't. But I mean, this is just a different. It's a different tool. The challenge is getting the market to understand the difference between the tools. And if you want to build a thriving, and I know I'm back on my soapbox, but if you want to build a thriving advisory business, you need to win new engagements, and then you need to execute them successfully. And that's where we want to. That's where we play.
Yes.
That's where we are strongest. And that's where we're having the most fun.
Hey,
Guys, we've run over the top of the hour. I'm okay for I actually need to run. I have a 10:15.
Oh, I
Go ahead,
have a
Larry.
topic. I have a topic for next time.
Okay.
And that is, just like LX Council has us, George, put in LX Council certified in our LinkedIn, and Mo checks that out for us.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we could do to put in our LinkedIn, how we position and market CoreValue in our LinkedIn as well.
Oh, good idea.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah.
Growth Drive certified, and get common language and a template or two that everyone could just cut and paste and put in the LinkedIn. Maybe we
I love
look
that.
at a topic
Yeah.
next Tuesday.
Larry, thank you. That's actually one of the things that's on my to-do list for Growth Drive. So let's kick it around next Tuesday.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great.
Awesome.
Guys,
Okay.
have a great week. Good to see you.
Gentlemen, fun as always.
I am
We're
officially passcoded, so I'm good.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, man. I'll
See you,
talk to you. Be well.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.